figure all that out. And they're like, let's go, let's do this. Well, one wise mouse, you all need a wise mouse, right? And one wise mouse gathers them up and says, hey, before we run out, the idea is awesome. We need a bell around the cat's neck. Here's the next issue. Here's the problem. They're like, what? This is great. Who's going to put the bell around the cat's neck? Was his question. And all of a sudden they all thought, oh, a bell around a cat's neck. Great idea. Easier said than done. They hadn't thought about that yet. So if we hear who's going to get up there and do that, there's so many ideas, there's so many concepts, there's so many strategies, there's so many things that we can all gather and take place, especially when it comes to the kingdom of God. But then we may look back and say, wow, loving God and loving people sounds great, and we agree we should do that. But that is so much easier said than done. We're going to take it a step further. Not only is that easier said than done, but how about this? When it comes to loving God, and especially when it comes to loving people, it could be said that for that love to last a lifetime, so not just that we should love them and have a season of love or a moment of love, but for that love to last forever and ever, I dare say, maybe we would all say, now that is just outright impossible. The day and age we live in, relationships to stay together forever, a love for people, to get along with a human more than a month, is that possible? The love that lasts forever could outright be said that that is impossible because of many reasons that we're going to dive into. I thought of this morning actually, and I thought, man, the Love Boat, you know, I think it was a show way back in the day, and you can picture like a love boat, right, just like steaming along, and you think, man, that boat's going to last forever, that boat's going. Maybe in your own relationship, that love boat is full, and the gas is full, and man, it's going, but what's going to eventually happen if they don't get more fuel? It's going to lose its steam. It's going to lose its momentum. Maybe our relationships, maybe our friendships, maybe us being the church that God has called us to be is like that love boat that starts off strong but can lose some steam. For it to last a lifetime, for it to keep on going, it must be refueled, it must be managed, it must be taken care of, or else it will phase out. As we focus today on knowing to love God and people, but now actually getting out there and doing it, we've got to look at how to make that love last and how we can be the hands and feet of Jesus no matter what we go through. This is one of the biggest facts I can guarantee you. Now, this applies to literally a friendship, this applies to a dating relationship, this applies to a marriage, this applies to a work, any relationship you're in your life. This is a solid fact. Your love, your relationship will not last if sin is a constant part of the equation. If there is sin in your life, man, working with teens, I've shared this before, working with young adults, older adults, doesn't matter. If students ever came to me in a dating relationship and they'd say things like, man, my passion for God's just not as strong as it used to be, and man, we're arguing more than we used to be, and man, we're questioning each other, and we're fighting, and this and this. This has happened hundreds of times right there in that office, but from teenagers to adults. My first question has always been, well, hey, how are y'all in your relationship? Are you doing things you shouldn't be doing? Is there sin involved? Are you living together before you're married? Are you doing whatever these things are that are not of God and that are not how He intended it to be? If you're doing things outside of God's design and plan for your life, then I can guarantee you whitewater and things that are going to be natural are going to be so much worse. How many of you would agree that life is hard enough as is? Women, close your ears. How many men would agree that women are complicated enough as is? Nothing?
None of them.
None of them. Amen. Okay, there we go.
No, I'm saying none of them close their eyes.
No, yes, so you're not going to respond. We got some smart men in this church. Amen. They're like, everybody's ears are wide open. I ain't acknowledging that. I'm just kidding. Men are way harder to get along with than women. I agree with that. Things are tough enough and complicated enough as is. So here's what I'm going to say. Whether it's a dating relationship, a marriage, a friendship, a work deal, whatever, life and loving people and things to last are hard enough. So if you add sin to that equation, I guarantee you're taking a hard enough situation and you're making it almost near impossible. If you have God in your heart, if you claim to love Jesus and you don't want to live a life of sin, if you've allowed that to creep in there, a tough enough situation just got that much more tougher. And God's like, that gap right there doesn't have to be. Things are stressful enough as is. Things are hard enough as is. Don't make it more complicated. Don't add on more stuff by all that sin. And hey, we've all been there. We all know that sin makes things more complicated. No one is here to judge you. No one is here to throw a stone at you. We are here to love you and help you do that. You guys have heard me talk a lot about that concept, and I think that's so important today. So if you find yourself in a fleeting relationship, if you find yourself finding it hard to have a love that sustains itself and lasts over a period of time, I'd ask yourself, what is your choices you're making every day? Is there sin in your life? Because that is a guaranteed factor to keep a love from lasting as long as it should. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 3 say this, and I would highly encourage you to write this down. Check this out. There's a group called For King and Country. Funny, today's been a lot about kings. Check out their song in one of their albums that is all about this scripture right here. But 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 3 say this. And I wish I could do it in a cool English accent like they do it, but I'm not even going to try. Okay. But here's what it says. 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all the mysteries and all the knowledge, and I have all the faith, I have a faith so strong that it can move the mountains, but I do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor, and if I give over my body to the hardship that I may boast, Corinthians tells us, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Man, if we're doing all the right things, if we're trying to say, man, I tithe, I do this, I do that, I give my time, my energy, I'm trying to just check things off the list, but if I don't have a love for God first and foremost, and I don't have a love for people secondly, then all that stuff is in vain. That's just kind of good deeds. Hey, you're a good person, but it really is going to gain you nothing. One of the most powerful moments I will never forget in my life just happened Thursday night, man. I was honored and given the opportunity. There's a thing called an IA retreat, and I've gone the last 2 years, and it is a time in Nashville with the top leaders in the United States through the Church of God and through youth ministry and different types of ministry and different denominations. And we all gathered for this retreat. And I've always been there, and there are 3 specific men that have been in ministry over 20, 30 years that have gotten thousands of people saved, that have been equipped leaders and done such great things. And they're teaching and leading at this thing. And the whole point of this retreat that I was just on, I got back last night, was you just go and be. You do what you need to do to rest. You do what you need to do to experience God. They have sessions and services planned, but you just kind of go. It is the craziest mix for me. I come back more hyped up and pumped up and exhausted. It's the weirdest combo ever, because you're in the presence of people if I go to bed before Andy Stevenson, I'm not going to hear how he's reached 3,000 plus teenagers a year for Christ. If I don't hear this, you want to hear every conversation and be a part of, man, this church in Arizona that's reaching all these people and all this stuff, and you're hearing all these things, and so you're trying to gain all this stuff and talking the relationships and the bond and the friendships, and it's such an incredible, powerful time. And one of the young leaders that's putting on the retreat, he called me a couple weeks ago, and he's like, hey, would you speak at this retreat? And I'm like, oh. My first 2 thoughts was, number one, I'm sorry that the dozens of people ahead of me on your list couldn't be there, because there's no way. I'm just shocked I'm on that list. And number 2, what an honor, with 3 in particular men. One man's name is Chip Taylor, one man's name is Mark Shaner, and one man's name is Andy Stevenson, who is nuts. Margaret Beatty just told me, one of our older ladies in our church, that Andy Stevenson, who is the head top dog of international convention, thousands of people, his grandfather used to pastor our church, and she was Andy's Sunday school teacher. I'm like, no way, I didn't realize this. It's nuts how God works to do all this stuff. Anyways, I get up there and I'm honored, and I thought, man, I should be sitting listening to these people. I should be the one. And I got up to speak in the Thursday night, the opening session. There's 30, 40 people there, and some of the strongest leaders, some interns, some younger people. And the seating is kind of set up like this, with a row in the very back. And man, I just look up and I see Chip, Andy, and Mark, who have been in ministry over 30 years and reached thousands of people. And I see them 3 sitting together, and I just have a moment of awe. Not celebrity or whatever. Just a moment of awe because of the main thing. And I thought this was perfect timing for today. as we wrap up loving God and loving people. Each one of those men who have sustained their marriages, who have sustained their ministries, who have sustained their faith and gone through a lot of ups and downs, each one of those men have shared with me their stories and have said, Nate, if my personal relationship with God wasn't the number one focus, and if my family wasn't the number two focus, we would never have been able to stay in ministry as long as we did. We would never be as effective in ministry as we are. And so they literally have grasped the concept of loving God and loving people, which has led them to a lifetime of love and doing what God has called them to do. And I'm just looking at them thinking, they've got it. They've got it figured out. When I first encountered them over the years, I thought, man, they're going to tell me how to be this pastor and that. They said, Nate, man, you love Jesus and you love your family, and everything else will come into place. And that's what we've been talking about the past 2 months. There is no excuse not to love people. There is no excuse not to love God. But we're going to look at some reasons why maybe we don't. And these guys could have told you, man, all this stuff happens to them, but they chose to love in spite. I thought of 3 things. First of all, it just pertains to loving people and why we may not love people. Number 1 is their flaws and their faults irritate me. We're kind of a quiet group today, but anybody just want to kind of do this with your hand? You ever been irritated? Just that, oh, right, there we go. I mean, I'm raising them all, right? 30 pounds ago, I would have done both feet at the same time. But yeah, we've all been there. People can irritate us. People can get on our faults, on our nerves. Their faults and their flaws are irritating. They're not perfect. Imagine that. Boy, if I was called to be a pastor and only reach people that are perfect, guess what? I wouldn't be here, because I myself am not, and none of us are. And so if we allow people's shortcomings and shortfallings to keep us from loving them, then guess what? You ain't going to love anybody. There's no human on the planet that you're going to love, because we all have flaws and we all have faults. Another thing, what keeps us from loving people? Their words or their actions have hurt me. Getting a little more serious, you don't have to raise your hand, but you ever been hurt by somebody? Has a human being ever said something that just cuts you deeply? Has a human being ever done something that hurts you deeply? And for all of us in here, boy, you ever had somebody you love and care about been hurt by somebody? Whew, big stuff there that makes it really hard to love them and to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Here's another thing. If you follow Christ and if you are wanting people to just love Jesus so much, man, when they sin, when they messed up, when they do something wrong, that could get you irritated and upset. I'm thinking, we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Who am I to say because you sin or because you have flaws or because you've irritated me at some point, I'm not going to love you? Because guess what? I'm sure, and I know for a fact, I've done the same thing. And so who am I to not show God's love and let a love that lasts? A love will not last forever. The go love God and go love people will not sustain itself if we let those factors keep us from loving people. Proverbs 17, verse 9. If you want to write that down, I highly encourage you, because you can read it and it says, disregarding another person's faults perseveres love. If you can get past the reasons not to love somebody, and you can get to, man, Jesus is telling me to love you, that's going to persevere. That's going to last a lifetime. Now, at times, does God call you to go there? Does God call you to address sin or address issues or address, hey, this is not good? Sure. I want you to think about, and I didn't have this actual story on my notes, but I want you to think about the woman at the well who had lived in sin, and Jesus came. And the ultimate goal for us as we deal with each other and we deal with people that may not know God or may have sin in their life or whatever, like we all do, the ultimate goal of discipleship, of loving someone, should be this. If I can build a relationship with you, and if I can be your pastor, your friend, your whatever, and we can get to a place where we can point out some things that maybe aren't good to work on, and you still feel loved, that's the ultimate. Man, I don't want to just come at you and say, hey, the woman at the well, Jesus could have walked up and said, I ain't even supposed to be around you because of who we are, because of our culture. And by the way, you are a sinner. You've had 5 husbands, you this and this and this. And I'm Jesus, by the way. Love you. Peace out. You know. Would that woman have felt that? Just, oh, yes, no. But he showed her he loved her first. He came to her and said, woman, can I help you? Can I be here for you? So much so that after he pointed out some things that were not good, she still felt loved by him and went to the town, which was full of non-believers and people that did not love Jesus, and said, hey, You've got to come check this guy out. Now imagine this. He was able to show her things that were not good, and she still wanted to bring other people to Jesus because she felt that love. We are called to do the same thing. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 2 says this, "Be humble and gentle by being patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love." A different version of Proverbs 17:9 says this, and this is huge. "Love forgets mistakes. Nagging about them parts the best of friends." Man, I don't think Jesus did a lot of nagging while he was on earth. I believe he did a lot of loving. It requires us to love people and to love God ultimately. We all know to do that, but we've got to be willing, in spite of each other, in spite of all that's happening, to still do that and be the hands and feet of Jesus. Band, you guys can come on up and start playing. I want to wrap up with a couple thoughts here. And again, our big idea today is simple. We all know to love God, and we all know to love people. Now let's do it. And we've addressed a few things, and we've addressed some issues and areas that make it hard to do that. Now we can all say people are full of faults, people are this, people are that, but we still need to love them. But what about God? We're going to kind of bring this all home. We're going to try to bring this all together. But why sometimes is it hard to love God? If he is perfect, if he is almighty, if he is the ultimate King of Kings forever and ever, why do we find it hard to love him? 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 7, the Living Bible translation says this, "If you love someone, you will be loyal to them no matter the cost. You will always believe in them, always expect the best of them, and always stand your ground in defending them." If you have that much trust in a person to say, "I've got your back no matter what," that love, that is fueled by love for them, that is crazy. But here's the reality. Here's the truth. Maybe when it comes to, yes, even God, we feel like God has let me down. If God truly loved me, he would have never let that happen. If God truly loved people, he would never let bad things happen, or whatever the situation might be. When I read that scripture, I thought, there's the problem. Some of us don't have enough trust in God to say, "God, I'm going to follow you no matter what," because we feel like he's let us down. There's an artist by the name of NF. Mike Tolson, you will love NF. Check him out. But there's an artist named NF that has a song that's literally called "Let You Down." And man, it came on the radio station I listened to, and there's a special needs kid that I pick up for after school program. And he knew like every word to this song. And the chorus says, "I'm sorry that I let you down." And that's kind of the main thing. And hearing him sing those words, I just got to think, I'm like, Jesus, how many of us feel like, God, you've let me down because of something that happened, because of a health issue that shouldn't be, because of a relationship that's fallen apart, because of being done wrong in so-and-so situation? How many of us say, God, you need to apologize to me for letting you down? How many of us have had a person that has let you down, and they maybe haven't sang that song to you, they maybe haven't said those words to you, "I'm sorry for letting you down," but God's still saying we've got to love them. We've got to be there for you. I want to ask this two of the toughest questions I've ever asked, but I need you to process this and think about it. This morning as you sit here today, how has God let you down? Not the Sunday school answer, he never has, Nate, God is good. No. In your flesh and in your heart and in your soul and in your spirit, down deep who you are, think about a time in your life, maybe you're in it right now, or maybe you've been in the past, where you truly felt that God let you down. And I want you to think about that. Then I want you to ask yourself the question I'm asking you today: how have people let you down? How is a person in your life, a human, maybe a parent, maybe a spouse, maybe a boyfriend, girl, whoever, that's supposed to have your back no matter what, but there was a point where they let you down? Think about that situation. Now I'm going to ask you to do this, and this is going to be hard, but I'm going to ask you to think about when you felt like God has let you down. Think about when people have let you down. And I'm going to ask us today to take one step. One step. You're going to hear this a lot from me in the coming months, but I'm going to say one step. What's that step today look like? After everything you just heard, what is the one step we want to take? And that is this. I'm going to ask you to take one step towards receiving the grace that God can give you. to receive the grace that comes from God. I'm sorry for questioning you. I'm sorry for thinking you let me down. You have never left me or forsaken me. I have let you down. And I need to receive that grace. God, I'm sorry for letting sin enter my relationship. I'm sorry for letting sin enter my life. I'm sorry for giving in to temptations or the things of this world that have messed things up, God. I need to take a step toward receiving your grace because I have let you down. And then we're going to take that a step further. So I'm asking you to take a step towards receiving grace and then have the faith to love God and to love people that will last a lifetime. To have the trust and faith to say, I'm going to love you, God, and I'm going to love you people no matter what. Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to receive the grace we need for that and experience that love? If you need to stand and sing, please stand and sing. If you need to sit, please sit. If you need to come forward and pray by yourself, come to this side and you can pray all alone. Nobody will talk to you. Nobody will mess with you. If you want to pray with somebody, you say, man, I have let a lot of people down. God, I have let you down. I need your help. Come to this side here and someone will put their arms around you and pray with you as well. But whatever you need to do to deal with these questions and this challenge, please do that this time.
See
But you know what? He raised the guy who beat the touchdown. There's a hurricane.
Yeah, it was, Thursday,
He raised like $800,000 for the,
yeah. I see you.
Hey, yeah.
I hadn't seen him about it. Maybe, probably because he's the one that did all that for the hurricane. Yeah.
Try to make it easy on him.
Really? I am so upset I didn't know that because the other night was my first time really talking to him.
Yeah,
Really, his dad's name is David?
yeah.
That's what,
Very good dog.
really? Okay, his grandpa was at Park Hills.
No, we say, you know, I think you do.
Archery, okay, and, because Martin said, I was Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
And he was a hand painter, so you made an impact.
If I said things about that, you could say,
David, yeah, maybe. What's up, dude? Hey, Bob.